The new governor of Michigan wants to scrap all those generous tax breaks and incentives for filmmakers, and Hollywood, naturally, is taking its business elsewhere.
As an independent filmmaker, I felt it was our responsibility to see what Michigan is doing about the film industry.
The biggest problem we have as independent filmmakers is the funding. It's not cheap to make a film.
It almost makes sense that this state would have such a hand in creating film and creating art like that.
What do independent filmmakers really believe about independent filmmaking? What's the purpose of it? Why did they do it? Because it's not easy.
In the case of Michigan, they were exceptionally generous. They had the most generous program of any state. The problem with it is they were trying to jump into the world and establish something instantly.
To know that my creative thoughts, that everything that I want creatively is underlying this video.
Independent filmmaking it's a lot more about the artist and a lot more about the story and a lot more about the art of filmmaking than a lot of these hired guns that are brought into these films that, you know, it's just kind of like another gig.
I believe this is worth it. I believe that creating this is worth it. Independent film is the idea that pain is temporary, film is forever.
And I needed a new passion, and I didn't really know it at the time, but when I met these filmmakers, things just gelled. And I was like, wow, here are these really cool people that just want to take over the world. And let me come with you. It was like a little film school for us.
I love that about the area, that people just get excited and do it because they have no other reason, because they have a story in their brain and the passion to tell that story, and that's nothing else matters except for getting it out there. I just love that about the filmmakers here.
Obviously we had the film credits for a while. We had Hollywood coming in, and there was a lot of jobs with that. And a lot of people went out and got training to work on that sort of stuff to make careers out of it. And then now that that's gone away, it's kind of backed off. We see less people working on that, but it hasn't stopped the indie community from still making films.
And just so you know, 11 of the 12 films we're going to watch tonight were shot here in Michigan. So it's nearly in a completely Michigan-made film festival.
I showcased my film World of Art tonight at the Movie Project, and it was a film that took 2 years to complete. When you're doing independent film, you're basically asking people for sweat, hustle, dedication, for a little bit of food. And, you know, to try to find people that will believe in some sort of idea that you have, you're saying, hey, this is an idea that I came up with.
You're the Mona Lisa.
Figured that out by yourself?
I have my board up here, which is Blake Snyder's form of like a board, like breaking the script down into narrative beats. I definitely kind of follow his template. I was hired recently by a guy named Matthew Chatlin, and he hired me to write these 2 scripts because he wants to make a couple stories that are like based around Detroit and Michigan, and he wants to film these independent films in Michigan, which I thought was like really cool because he wants to do it with the full intention of like, you know, help growing the film community here.
You want to give each of the artworks that you're representing in the film some integrity, and with that you want to make sure that you're not going to offend anybody by your costumes being based on these famous artworks. So it's kind of a delicate balance, and if you don't hit it right on, even from my perspective, some of the costumes that I didn't have more time on that I might have wanted to make it a little more perfect, I see all over it, and I'm like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that, but with the time constraints and how long you actually see each of the costumes, it's only for a few seconds to get that impression. So it's really not that important, but on the same, I thought it was important to have the spirit of each of them represented.
Sometimes I meant to call my wife and I'd accidentally call her instead, just because that's how often I was calling her about things. Right, Jamie?
Yes. And there were times that I wouldn't answer my phone.
You know, that's one of the things I love about making movies in Michigan, right? We have more talent than anybody else. We've been exporting our talent for 60 years. You can't go anywhere else in the country where you work on a movie and not find somebody from Michigan. Anywhere you go, you're going to find somebody from Michigan working on that set, I guarantee it. Just because everybody leaves Michigan to go make movies somewhere else, right? So the talent's always here. We have the locations here.
Yeah, but we have like the city of Detroit, which is not so overpopulated that we can manipulate it for film. Like, I mean, it's not like New York where you have to make a big deal about closing down a city block. Nobody will notice if people are filming like in Detroit on a city block right now because there's not that many people there.
I would say that Michigan landscape is very nice. I mean, I'm not much of a city person. I like the rustic, vintage, artistic look. If you look at any of my videos, you'll see that that's what a lot of them capture, is this very rustic feel of a country-like atmosphere. Because, you know, a lot of people will say, oh, no, I don't. A lot of people do not like the country atmosphere. However, when you see it, you do have this nostalgic love for a country look, if that makes sense. You know, you see tall grass, a barn. It is very calming and peaceful, and that's something that I see Michigan has to offer. I'm looking straight out a window and I see these huge rusty wheels, and that's awesome. I would go for that. I mean, I love the pine trees, birch trees, all that's out here. I mean, Michigan does have a lot to offer landscape-wise if you're looking to shoot outside, in my opinion.
You have filmed so many movies here, the locations are so diverse, you don't have to make this thing.
A lot. I mean, I filmed in, obviously in Wayne County, which was the DIA, Town Pump, Scarab Club. I filmed in Oakland County. I filmed in Macomb County. I filmed up in Port Huron, which is where the jail scene was. Realize that you don't have enough memory in the camera to shoot for the full day. You have to find a way to dump memory. So all those things that you're running around trying to do kind of subsides, and you say, I did it. I finally made this work. And so to me, that's the idea of independent film, is this drive and this persistence to create something that somebody might not normally have done if they didn't have this passion for what they were doing.
But all I see is video getting better and better. I really do. And I think that's good for overall, but bad for videographers who are trying to make a living.
If you're an independent filmmaker out there, do not let anyone tell you no. To follow your passion and to stick with it. And just find ways to work around these obstacles that you think are obstacles, because sometimes they're really not.
A lot of studio features that come in, they bring a lot of outside cast and crew in, and that doesn't create jobs for us. Whereas independent film is almost always local cast, local crew, and that's what does give us jobs, and that's what does feed money into our economy.
Independent film in Michigan is not going to be defined by any kind of incentive. It's not going to be defined on Hollywood. It's not going to be defined on outside people coming in. What it's defined by are the filmmakers here that are actually going out and making the best films that they possibly can. For independent filmmakers to go out and make films in the face that people could care less whether they make a film or not. I mean, that's what my film is kind of trying to say, is that the film is more of a letter to artists out there saying, whatever it is that's holding you back, whatever your fear is, whatever it is that's keeping you from doing your greatest work, fight it, get rid of it. And so when we have a collective of filmmakers in Michigan that are continuously getting to work and putting their work out there, something is bound to happen.